Hey, everybody, welcome to Resiliency Radio, your go-to podcast for the most cutting-edge insights in integrative and functional medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Jill, and with each episode, we dive into the heart of healing and personal transformation. Join me as we interview medical experts, innovators, thought leaders, and people of all types and backgrounds, bringing you the very latest to help you in optimal performance and longevity. Today is no different. We're going to talk about transgenerational trauma and dive into a topic with one of my colleagues and friends, Dr. Olga Stevko. I'll introduce her in just a moment, but before I do, I want to share with you a couple things. First of all, you can find all products and services to help you on your healthy journey at drjillhealth.com. Again, drjillhealth.com. We have things like this best-selling sold out product that has just come back in stock called the Hair Regrowth Kit. We've had great success with those of you who are finding your hair thinning on the top. I've been using it for several years and I don't almost go a day without these drops. They're DHT blockers and can really improve the thickness and integrity of your hair. I also pair this shampoo, conditioner, and hair growth serum with my Dr. Jill Beauty Collagen, which is a game changer for hair, skin, and nails. And you can find all of those at drjillhealth.com. And then I do want to mention, if you don't know, our clinic, Flatiron Functional Medicine, is accepting new patients. I have so many people calling in every week to see about appointments, but we still have space. We have a nurse practitioner, Hannah, and a physician associate, Fawn, who both work with me with each of our cases, and we would be happy to take on your case if you're looking for a consultant in functional medicine. Okay, let me go and introduce our guest today. Dr. Olga Stevko. Neuroscience has shown that 95% of our life experiences are shaped by our unconscious patterns. We're going to dive deep into that today. Dr. Olga Stevko, MD from Russia, has created a unique and powerful methodology that allows her to identify and transform unconscious patterns that are formed as a result of stressful life events, trauma, including trauma passed down from generations past. These programs influence how people perceive themselves, others in the world, and affect the nervous system responses and impact both the body and mind. This phenomenon creates a wide variety of physiological, physical health, and emotional conditions from insomnia, anxiety, to health issues like premature aging, autoimmunity, and many more. You're going to hear us talk about that today. And I just believe transforming these unconscious patterns is one of the heart of healing and maybe one of the most powerful things that you could do. So let's welcome Dr. Olga and dive in. Dr. Olga, it's so good to have you back on the podcast. You were the very first episode we ever did, and that's been now almost 5 years. I think it's been a while. I'm so glad to have you back. And transgenerational trauma is our topic today. I want to dive into that, and I have lots of questions for you. And we were both just talking before we came on how fascinating this topic is. But before we go there, I always love to have a little background, and I would love for you to tell our listeners a little bit about how you got into this field of work around helping people with these kinds of issues.
First of all, I am so excited to be here. And as always, it's such a pleasure to see you and to talk to you. And I will answer your question. I'm trained as a medical doctor in Russia. And I remember when we studied psychiatry in medical school, I was fascinated about the unconscious mind. When
Mhm.
we studied some um, work, Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, and I could not believe what unconscious mind can do. Back then, maybe they did not have enough information even what the unconscious mind can really do. And also, I became aware of people's patterns for healing.
Yes.
And I was so surprised. I was asking myself a question, why people approximately the same age and also they had the same health conditions, why some healed completely and pretty fast, some it took very slow to heal, and some never healed. And I observed certain patterns in people's perception about themselves and even their health condition and how they reacted to the environment.
Mm. What a great framework, because you took your medical training and then you really dove into what I love to think about too, is how the mind and the body connect. And as a medical doctor, as you are trained as well, we can look at the body and do labs and make a diagnosis of a condition, say my history, breast cancer or some autoimmune condition. But what we're seeing, and this is what we'll talk about today, and I'll have you share all of your knowledge, is those people can either go on to get worse and worse and worse despite all of the interventions, or like myself, who's been through Crohn's and cancer and completely in remission from all those things. And what I'd love to talk about is what is the difference between those kinds of patterns. Maybe right now we could just start with transgenerational trauma and this epigenetic imprinting. Do you want to give us a little framework around what is that? What does that mean for people listening?
I will give you two scientific examples. And I observed transgenerational trauma maybe 20 years ago. Only I did not know the mechanism, like how it passes.
Yeah.
And I found these two researches, and I would like to share
Okay.
them with you. The first is Dr. Brian Dias and Dr. Kerry Ressler. They did an experiment with the male mice.
Hmm.
And they introduced at the same time the odor, a chemical odor that is similar to cherry blossom, and also a mild electric shock to 2 feet of these mice. And what they observed that these mice offspring and even their grandchildren,
Hmm.
when the same order was introduced, they had the same fear startle response. And they, I believe, first discovered this transgenerational epigenetic inheritance. And I found another research, the experiment of Dr. Odit Rihavi. And he did experiments with C. elegans worms. It's a type of roundworms.
Yeah.
And he found out that acquired traits for behavior and stress response pass down via this transgenerational epigenetic inheritance via small RNA molecules.
Mm.
And the mechanism is very interesting. When a parent is experiencing a life stress or trauma, these small RNA not coded molecules are produced in the nervous system. And the information of the imprint of this trauma will be stored in small RNA molecules. And after, some of them will be transferred to germline, where eggs and sperm produces. And they will be stored physically
Mm.
in eggs or sperm. And after offspring of this parent, when they have the same or similar experiences, similar trauma, similar stimulus or stimuli, this information will be used and they will experience pretty much the same response.
Wow. Wow. So first one, the mice, they smell the cherry blossom and they have this pain stimulus, and their children, when they smelled the cherry blossom, had the same stress response as if they had the pain, but they really didn't have that experience. It was
Yes, even
transferred.
grandchildren,
Wow. So two
despite
generations.
to never experiencing
Yeah.
disorder.
Wow.
And uh, research shows that for human being, it's a similar mechanism.
Mhm.
trauma and stressful life events are stored in small RNA molecules, and it's not only the mechanism, there are other epigenetic mechanisms.
Yes, and I remember just reading some of the studies of the starvation in Eastern Europe and then the Holocaust victims and in the humans where they would see these same kinds of patterns that made no sense for a child who technically didn't have the same experience as the parents or grandparents. It's interesting, even with my own work on myself and Mark Wolin's book called It Didn't Start With You. He's just one of the many authors who's written about that. And I remember being so fascinating reading about how maybe at 40 years old, a man would suddenly divorce his wife and go off in something almost like the midlife crisis. But then he found out at 40, his father and his grandfather and his, great grandfather all had a similar experience, and maybe one that was two generations back had a sudden death of his mother or something that kind of started this trauma. And then every male in that family, and this is just one example from that time, would experience this kind of sudden shift in consciousness and maybe again a divorce or something really out of behavior, characteristic behavior for them at a certain age. So he talked about how when we go back to look at our family trees, we can sometimes see these patterns and be like, oh, no wonder that I at this age or this time in my life felt this thing that I didn't know really existed, but it did exist with my parents and grandparents. So obviously that's a long roundabout thing, but I know you treat clients and you talk about this and do this work. Do you have any examples or things that you've seen in your clients or patients to where when you bring that to mind, to the conscious mind and heal it, it changes things forever?
Yes, a lot of examples. And what I observed often when my clients refer certain their health conditions or symptoms, and they say, "Oh, my father or my mother had it, or even my one of grandparents had it." It can be an indication of transgenerational trauma, and I'm not talking about genetic
Hmm.
diseases. Um, and I actually remember one of the clients one of the your patients you referred to me experienced something similar. She had neck pain and stiffness, and she told her father had the same symptoms. And it's so interesting when we worked on this trauma, transgenerational trauma, her symptoms were completely gone in 2 sessions.
Wow.
And also she had extreme sensitivity to sounds, and the symptoms were gone too.
Wow.
And um, as I believe I mentioned it before, my clients experienced transgenerational trauma. The unconscious mind recalled some imprints,
Hmm.
and only I did not understand how it's possible. And uh, to my surprise, they were so fascinated what the information came, they decided to talk to their parents or grandparents. And sure enough, it was confirmed it did happen, and they did not know the family
Wow.
history. Uh, and it's so amazing that when this transgenerational trauma imprints are resolved, and also childhood trauma imprints too, the results are astonishing. It's certain issues are gone, symptoms are gone, and even patterns are shifted, and people even forget they had it.
Yes, so years and years ago, right after my own divorce, which has been now almost 10 years, it's been a long time, did a lot of work with you. And I remember some of those things that like really shifted for me in my behavior, in my own health. And what was interesting, I love that you just said that. And I want to talk more about the work that you do. But for me, what was interesting is the part of myself that was in a certain way or having a certain symptom when I resolved that, like you said, it was almost like I forgot that that ever existed. And it's so weird to have that experience where you're like, really, was that me, that behavior or that symptom? Because once you really resolve the subconscious, it's almost as if it never existed. And of course it did, right? But do you want to talk a little bit about that? I think that's so fascinating because it is part of the picture of this like really complete, when you resolve that at that level, that deep level, It's almost if that part of you has just evaporated in some way.
Yes. Um, and what I believe with the work I do, and I will talk more about that, and I do not provide techniques for people for good coping mechanisms. Even I know a lot of powerful techniques,
Yeah.
and it's possible to resolve generational trauma and childhood trauma with permanent results.
Yes.
The results are fast and like really, really can be dramatic even. And what happens, I believe, um, the nervous system of a person will be using the information in the small RNA molecules differently.
Hmm.
uh, Stimuli and the stimulus can be there to
Yeah.
whatever people were reacting.
Hmm.
And the nervous system responses will be completely different,
Hmm.
neutral.
Yeah.
That's why there is no reference in the nervous system to react with a stress response. And I would like to talk more uh, how how this how the unconscious programs are forming as a result of this trauma imprints.
Yeah, let's talk about because again, some of this stuff seems so mysterious. And to me,
Yes.
it's almost like being on an autopilot where you don't really know what that programming is and we're behaving or responding in a certain way. And this could be everything from maybe how we respond to an angry person to how we respond to a stressful situation, but it can also be a physiological response in our body that creates autoimmunity or cognitive dysfunction or one of the big things I treat is mast cell activation. And I always feel like that in particular is very prone to environmental inputs because our mast cells are our immune system's protective agents, right? And if there's some reason, unconscious or conscious, that we feel unsafe in our environment, or that our parents or grandparents felt unsafe and we have a re-triggering of that trauma, I think that mast cell activation can be a part of that. So maybe talk a little about how these form and then how might someone know that they have an unconscious pattern they need to resolve?
uh, I am. It's such an like again fascinating topic, and first of all, it's what I researched and my understanding of how it's all forming. It's a significant role. It's a person's perception. Maybe some people don't realize
Mhm.
how perception is important.
Yes.
And an imprint is it's an instant sensory and cognitive assessment and learning about the environment and responding to it
Hmm.
during a stressful event or trauma in order to survive or adapt.
Yes.
And and the perception is so important because it's important when how trauma is forming because even PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, not everybody is forming who even experience
Yeah.
horrible events. For
Yeah.
example, Vietnam War veterans only 15%, I believe, form PTSD.
Hmm.
And what I believe it's due to transgenerational trauma, because transgenerational trauma will significantly affect perception. If already the information about trauma from
Yeah.
ancestors is there,
Hmm.
and when similar events occur, for example, some military actions or war or violence,
Hmm.
this information will be used for example, small RNA molecules, and the nervous system of a person will respond the same like their ancestors'
Yeah.
nervous system. And that's why perception is very important, and also it's very important during forming a traumatic imprint. And these trauma imprints are becoming part of a person's unconscious programs. And unconscious programs, they influence most things. They influence our perception, our thought patterns, our emotions, our behavior, our reactions. And that's why it's on autopilot.
Hmm.
When some stimulus or stimuli trigger trauma, pretty much even people try do not react certain way or do not feel certain way or don't behave certain way, it won't happen. The
Hmm.
unconscious mind will override whatever people want. And that's why there will be reactions, emotions, feelings of our ancestors.
Hey guys, just a quick pause to remind you if you want to dive more about personal trauma and healing, I would encourage you to be sure and get my book, Unexpected. You can find it anywhere books are sold. And if you want to get a personal signed copy from me, just go to drjillhealth.com, click on Unexpected, and you can order it there. We will ship it right from our office and it'll be personally signed by me. Okay, let's get back to the show. Amazing. Um, do you think this is just a little side note, but I know a lot of people have experiences we call deja vu, where you have this like perceived sense in a certain situation, in a certain conversation with someone maybe you've never met before that this feels really strangely familiar, right? Do you think that has to do with this kind of subconscious memory of transgenerational conscious or experiences?
I believe so, Dr. Jill, because what I believe our unconscious mind is coding not only traumatic and stressful events, but also pleasant events
Mm-hmm.
and even learnings, what I believe.
Yeah.
And that's why when something reminds certain ancestral experience, even
Mm-hmm.
pleasant one, people feel certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was asking myself, how come Mozart just played piano as a genius at 5 years old? It's a possibility of ancestral memory,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not like you don't need to study how to play
Yeah.
piano. No, you need to study, only it will be a piece of cake. Or if your parents or some of your ancestors studied, for example, engineering, uh, in this case, what I believe, their children, even grandchildren, they can have a gift for patterns for
Yeah.
example, math and engineering.
Wow.
And
It's so
I,
fascinating the many ways that this can manifest in our life, not just trauma, although trauma is a big one because people I think don't realize, but these gifts as well. And I've been seeing, it seems like all the time on social media, there's these videos of a very young child who's really extraordinary in math or in a piano. And I do believe, like you said, there has to be some sort of genetic imprinting on that too. So the neat thing is there's gifts that are passed down as well.
yes, and also, Dr. Jill, I believe even when trauma is imprinting and
Mhm.
passes transgenerationally, um, a part of that, it can be very unpleasant, painful experiences.
Mhm.
What I believe, we are relieving our ancestors' burdens
Mhm.
and hardships.
Yeah,
And on the other hand, there can be gifts for people.
yeah.
What I believe, some trauma of our ancestors can create even higher resilience.
Hmm. Yes.
Even genius patterns of thinking. I had such clients.
Hmm.
And recognizing patterns consciously and unconsciously that can be helpful.
Mm. It's amazing. And I love to frame it that way, to actually think about it could increase resilience and learning and ability to be even more. And I think sometimes as we start to heal the patterns, we literally are going backwards into time and healing the patterns of those before us in a way, aren't we?
Oh, Dr. Jill, now after you said it, I remember some very surprising for me experience.
Hmm.
I got a client and she wasn't a religious person. That's why I was surprised what she said. And she studied science, and during our work, she told me, my ancestors are very grateful for you. Not only I healed, you healed my ancestors.
Wow.
And for me, it was such a surprise. Like again, she did not believe in certain things, and she said it.
Wow. So the power there.
Yes.
Now, what about, so we can look, we've talked about this ancestral trauma, the RNA patterns, and all this amazing research that's actually been done to prove what we're talking about. One of the things I think that I see in clinical practice is a lot of people have stress-related illness, which means the HPA axis and the stress-related hormones and things are a little bit out of control, and those neurotransmitters and things from our own physiological stress response are affecting our bodies and causing more illness and breakdown in tissues. How could it be that unresolved trauma might be unwittingly or hidden causing the stress response in a person?
It's such a good question, Dr. Jill. And I mentioned perception
Hmm.
before.
Yeah.
It's a lot to do with perception. And we perceive things uh, not how they are, we perceive things how we are.
Yes.
And when this trauma is stored, generational and even womb trauma and childhood trauma, our perception will be according the
Hmm.
trauma, as I mentioned. And it's not about a stressful event itself.
Hmm.
It's how we perceive certain events. And as a good example, I remember I was a part of a group of friends, and we were talking, and suddenly the topic of spider came. And I was so surprised because some people reacted very excited to talk about a big spider. Even one person had a pet tarantula.
Wow.
And other people, some feel anger, like angry
Wow.
thinking about a spider. Some fear, some dislike and disgust, some neutral.
Wow.
Isn't it interesting how the same thing,
Uh-huh.
like stimulus,
Right.
the same event, it can create completely different perception.
Mm.
And perception can be about self and others and the world around. And generational trauma can create a negative perception of self, and people experience low self esteem, low self worth. In this case, every day, more than once, they will be very stressed and anxious and under pressure because it's a fear how
Hmm.
people perceive them.
Mm.
And they perceive themselves as a not good enough or not good as others,
Hmm.
not enough, and it can create chronic stress.
Hmm.
People cannot cope
Yeah.
with what the unconscious mind, how it perceives, and even how they perceive the world around, what is not threatening for other people, like a big spider.
Yes. Yes.
For others, it will be very threatening. And a spider is just a metaphor. It can be anything.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
love that because it's like, even for example, years ago when I started speaking, I was a little nervous and I got over that. And now when I go out to a stage, it doesn't really matter how many I get on there. And I just love I have a lot of joy around that. But I've heard the statistics around public speaking, and that's literally one of those top fears for most people. And for some reason, for me, it was really just realizing it's so not about me. Like when I got out of my own way, when I had my ego involved and I was worried about messing up or looking okay, then it was stressful. But as soon as I changed that perception, I was like, wait, it has nothing to do with me. It's just the message, right? And now I could stand on any stage with any number of people and I never get nervous because it's not about me. But I shifted that perception. And same with spiders. We could have someone who's like terrified and someone's like, oh my gosh, I have 12 spiders in my bedroom in a tarantularium or whatever. So it's really interesting to think about that. And the idea there, the exciting thing is that we can change our perception, right?
Very fast by resolving
Yeah.
transgenerational
Hmm.
and woman childhood trauma. It
Yeah.
depends where it was formed.
Hmm.
And I helped a lot of people among different issues with public speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one, isn't it? It's funny that it's like
Yes, and it's about self-perception
oh,
and also the fear if they will be judged by
mhm.
other people.
Yeah. It is because I remember the times when I used to be nervous and when I shifted, I just did the work around what you said is like I had to take myself out of the equation. My idea that I was being judged. And once that was gone, it's not scary at all. Because who cares?
And Dr. Jill,
Uh,
what I noticed is so interesting. Trauma imprints can create inability to connect on a deeper level
oh,
with
yes.
yourself,
Yes.
other people, even your pets.
Uh-huh.
And also can affect your identity.
Hmm.
People, they have problems with clarity at the identity level.
Yeah.
And when trauma imprints and unconscious program, what they create, unconscious programs are transformed, it's amazing what happened.
Wow.
Most of my clients, they become authentic
Yeah.
and they could connect on a very deeper level with themselves and other people and even their pets. And in this case, they did not worry anymore how they're perceived by other people. Just they are themselves
Wow.
and they don't need to try hard or pretend. It's truly remarkable. It's trauma imprints often creates not trusting, and it can be yourself
Yeah.
and also others, and kind of building up walls between you and other people. And that's why so many people, because of unresolved trauma and the unconscious programs, they feel kind of not connected
Hmm.
and separated.
Yeah.
And as they do not belong,
Hmm.
and even they're imposters.
Yeah.
Like I believe imposture syndrome, it affects up to 85% of people. Isn't it interesting?
That is fascinating and it makes so much sense. So the beautiful thing is, and honestly, that makes even more sense because at a really core level, healing the human body is about human connection, is about our relationships. I've seen study after study that shows more than money or wealth or fame or whatever in our life, the thing that creates the most happiness is the relationships that we have and the authenticity. And so how cool to pull that in, like what's tied to happiness, which is our genuine relationships with other people, into resolving this trauma. And it makes so much sense. And it makes so much sense that if we don't really know ourselves, then we don't really know these programs that are running without our knowledge, that we wouldn't be able to really show up as ourselves.
Yes, and Dr. Jill, it's amazing you mentioned it because I observed it have been observing for many, many years what this trauma imprints and unconscious programs that create affect. And I was curious, I decided to do a research online and I found out that unresolved trauma imprints and especially transgenerationals affect most areas of
Wow.
life, including
Hmm.
relationships,
Hmm.
including mental and physical health, including business,
Oh, yeah.
because in each area, the core is you and
Yes.
how your nervous system is reacting and the entire body is responding. and how you react to others in business or
Mhm.
relationships, and much more.
That makes so much sense that it's so critical. And in fact, I've gone from in my 20 plus years of functional medicine, obviously supplements, lifestyle, diet, all of these things are so critical. And as the world gets more complex and more toxic and all these things are happening, I've really come to understand that in healing and even my practice, these kinds of core work on our trauma and our unconscious programs are maybe one of the most important things that we can do for our health. So I love that framework.
Yes, and I believe so, Dr. Jill, because our unconscious mind and our unconscious mind is part of our nervous system, especially
Yes.
autonomic nervous system, and how our unconscious mind works and how our nervous system responds. It can change dramatically biochemistry.
Yes. Yes.
It
That's
can
what's
lead
exciting
to
is we're kind of really going to the root. We talk about root cause medicine. So we've talked a lot about what this is, and it's so fascinating, the things we covered from the epigenetic transfer of information to the patterns that affect our relationships. Let's talk just a little bit about the work that you do and maybe in generalizations, maybe a little bit specific, like an example of how would someone resolve this kind of trauma if they were to work with you or someone who is a practitioner?
Thank you. And first of all, I would like to mention something that trauma imprints and the unconscious programs they create can lead to chronic stress and also to low-grade systemic inflammation.
Mhm.
And that can lead to various diseases and even to rapid aging through different mechanisms, like, for example, inflammation and also shortening telomeres.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do in my practice, I observe patterns. And how I do it, I observe a person's face, my client's face, and also posture. And I assess verbal and non-verbal patterns of communication and even the quality of their voice.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I will look at their drawings, and I'm not talking about art.
Yeah.
Thinking about the issue, my client will create a mechanical drawing. The unconscious mind will guide their hand and fingers to express the information about these unconscious patterns. And what I'm looking for, trauma imprints and unconscious programs can affect even muscles.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for constrictions, neuromuscular locks. And that's why trauma imprints can create even asymmetry in face, even inability to smile authentically, like it will be an entire constriction, or even how positions of eyes are. For example, eyes are constantly kind of squinty and they look small
Yeah.
and kind of sunk in. And the same for voice. Muscles that take part in voice, some of them they're similar who takes part in breathing. And trauma imprints and the unconscious programs they create can affect all of that. And even like people have various of issues with voice. For
Yeah.
example, low talkers, loud talkers,
Yes.
even speech stuttering, or high pitch voice, or very like rusty voice. And it's amazing. I would see these patterns, and patterns are connected.
Yeah.
It's what I see, how people look and how they sound, and in their drawing, they can be similar patterns.
Mm,
And bringing awareness is the first step to resolving certain things and healing.
mm.
Even this is important. And I created the process, multi-step process. And during this process, a person's unconscious mind will be doing most of the work. And that's why it's effortless and painless. It's what my clients shared with me. And I would identify what patterns and specifically what unconscious program to work on. And I can work one program at a time. And even working on one program can create like really big results and can go to different areas because one program is connected to trauma imprints can be from related to childhood trauma and or transgenerational trauma and working on one program can improve or resolve not only one issue but improve and resolve other issues.
Yeah, and again, I worked with you quite a few years ago, and I really look back and I think my voice has changed, my smell. Like I can actually attest to some of these things that over the years I was pretty profound, the changes when you work with those unconscious programs. It's so powerful. Um, Maybe as we start to wrap up, do you have any examples of a client you've worked with that you've seen some real profound change in either a health condition or their confidence or their work-related ability to show up? What things have you seen in your practice?
I saw so many amazing, almost like miraculous experiences in my practice
Hmm.
in different areas because I help my clients with various issues, health related, relationships related, and business related. And uh, as few examples, I had one client and she had horrible migraines every day, even throwing up, they were so severe. And as a result of our work, after just a few sessions, her migraines were completely gone.
Wow.
And also, she had kind of squinty eyes. Her eyes and sunk. Her eyes became very big, round, and her sensitivity to light was gone.
Wow.
And I had another client, Lou, and I have a video of our webinar he's sharing on my website. And it's remarkable what happened. And he was back then 67, he shared. And he worked on anti-aging and he had triple eye bags,
Wow.
many deep wrinkles, poor memory, cognition, low energy. He did not look good. And only after 4 sessions and 3 months passed after that, 90 days, his eye bags and wrinkles were diminished significantly.
Wow.
He had good memory, good cognition, good energy, and it's like amazing what happened in his life and he shared
Wow.
during this video. And I help people with autoimmune diseases, psoriasis, Hashimoto's, and others. I remember one client, and she could not walk or function when she came to me. She was lying in a complete freeze state of her nervous system,
Wow.
feeling heavy, exhausted.
Hmm.
After only a few sessions, it was amazing how much energy she had. She felt very cold. She didn't feel it anymore.
Wow.
And when she did her test, her antibodies
Hmm.
were reduced significantly. And many, many symptoms were gone. Even her doctor took her off from some medications.
Yeah. Wow.
And I had many, many other cases as posture permanently improved in 1 or 2 sessions.
Mm.
People try to do anything, exercises and
Yeah.
other things, it didn't improve permanently after exercises. And relationships wise, people became more connected with themselves and others, more authentic.
Yes.
And people were drawn to my clients.
Yeah.
They were so surprised. They told people never came to me before. They're coming now, even hugging me.
Wow. That's
something like that.
amazing. I love the story about the older gentleman who it sounds like anti-aging medicine with the trauma, like the fact that you can have these changes, which again, I saw some on my own with my own experience, and clearly this can, because of the neuromuscular connection.
Yes, people change so much, not only wrinkles are gone,
Uh-huh.
the shape of face.
Yeah.
The shape of face can shift so much, and eyes. My client shared some people even did not recognize them. They
Yeah.
ask, "What have you done? You look so different."
Uh-huh. It is amazing. And again, you even again, this has been years ago, took some videos of me and I can look back, I'm like, that doesn't even look like me anymore.
Yes, like a
So,
different person sometimes.
yeah,
How
exactly.
people look, how
Right.
they
And talk.
sound,
Hmm.
how they feel about themselves, how they relate to people, and even how they think about business, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah. Or their fears or their lack of fear
Yes.
after you're done. So amazing. This has been really, really fun to go deep with transgenerational trauma and how that we can actually shift this and just to hear about the work that you're doing. One thing that came to mind in our last few minutes as you were talking is I've heard that the frequency of love and joy is obviously a very high frequency, a high vibration, and we a lot of times draw people to us on those frequencies when we're in a great state of love and joy and peace. And I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I recently heard that the vibration or frequency of authenticity is 40 times higher than that of love and joy, which I always thought were something else. So how cool that when you work through these trauma patterns that you don't even maybe know exist, that you can just vibrate at such a higher level. And of course, then whether you're manifesting work in the world or showing up to help patients heal, you can do it with a much more authentic higher vibration. And that's exciting too.
Or I believe so, Dr. Jill, because even our brain, our heart, they have neurons, our gut,
Yes,
they're
yes,
all connected. And what I studied in medical school, neurons produce nerve impulses.
yes, yes,
It is kind of energy. And
right.
I believe it's what people feel when
Hmm.
they meet. Have you ever experienced? It's
Yeah.
a kind of first look, and
Yes,
to know how you feel about that person, because
yes,
people perceive unconsciously other people,
yes,
and because of unresolved trauma imprints, some people even they pretend to be positive, the unconscious mind is not showing you.
right, right.
And the frequency is different because some people are not optimistic.
Yeah.
They look at the world in a very negative way.
Hmm.
That's why what you said it is profound. I
Yes.
believe it is true.
I do. And again, you're a super sensor as far as you can really read and understand people well. I feel like I'm kind of that way too in clinical practice. And it is interesting because someone can come across as very positive, but you're like, there's something off. And I think it's
Yes.
that sense that often people have that. And so if any of us can work on these patterns and show up more as our truest, most authentic self, we're going to do everything better in the world and our bodies are going to feel better. And so so exciting. If people want to know more about you or work with you, where can they find you?
My website, drolga.com, DR, my first name, OLGA.com.
Perfect.
And I have some videos and some podcast videos I was invited to, and also webinars with my clients where they share their remarkable life stories and
Mhm.
transformations. And I will talk more about patterns, their patterns. And as I mentioned before, even watching these videos, it might shift already for some people
Yeah.
how they feel about themselves, because the first step is awareness. And
Yes.
unconscious programs are shadows, and they're in a blind spot.
Yes.
People have no idea they have issues. They think it's normal.
Yes. Love that. And I love the work that you do. So if you're listening or you're driving, we'll be sure and include that with the show notes, drolga.com. And of course, all those videos and resources there. And it's interesting because, again, because I've done a lot of work with you and a lot of work over the years, I have found too, as I'm more aware, I can often now go into my quiet prayer, meditation, and journal, and I often will have these shifts just on my own. And so I just want to encourage those people out there, if you want to start working with someone like Dr. Olga or Dr. Olga herself, or even doing the work on your own, you can often go into either journaling or looking through patterns in your family, and you may want a professional to help you. But some of this stuff can be introspective and you can start the work on your own, which I love. Well, thank you again for coming on. It's super exciting to have you back. And thank you for just the light and the brilliance that you bring into the world. It's a real honor to have you on again.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Jill, and I'm so grateful to be on your podcast.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Dr. Olga Stevko on transgenerational trauma. Like I said, I've done some of the work myself with her almost a decade ago, and it was really a profound shift in my own health and thinking and ability to show up in the world. And I just love getting the word out about these trauma-based somatic therapies that can be so powerful in shifting how we think and believe about disease and how we show up in the world. So whether you read Mark Wolyn's book called It Didn't Start With Me, or reach out to Dr. Olga or another somatic-based trauma therapist, I hope that it will help you in your journey. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button below, hit the bell to be notified of future episodes, and we bring you new episodes each week. Please share with a friend if you found it helpful, and I look forward to seeing you again next week on Resiliency Radio.